from your local source, TV20 News at 6 in high definition.
Good evening.
There has been a toxic waste site in Gainesville for more than a quarter century now. So why are people still moving in next door? They say they simply didn't know. The law is clear. Home sellers are supposed to disclose any hazards to their property. But TV20's Corey Levitt tells us why that makes it no easier to figure out who is to blame when they don't.
I was lied to and misled.
James Miller moved his family from New York to Gainesville in June 2007, paying $192,000 for a home on Northwest 37th Place, just blocks from the Cabot-Koppers Superfund site. Miller says the realtor who showed and sold him the home never told him about the infamous nearby property.
How would I know? I lived outside of Albany, New York, and I came down in good faith.
Miller says the house was completely inspected before closing, per city requirements, but no mention of Koppers made it into that report either.
We never would have purchased this house.
According to the 1985 Florida Supreme Court ruling in the case Johnson v. Davis, the seller has to disclose defects that will affect the property value, which are not obvious to the buyer. But there is some debate over what constitutes a material defect that must be
Certainly. Because if it's something as a stigma, you're not required to disclose, and in fact you would potentially be damaging the seller or the owner of the property by disclosing it.
Aaron Bosshart says his company policy is to include an environmental disclaimer, but there is confusion about how extensive the contamination from Koppers is and what properties are affected.
Certainly if the EPA or the state of Florida or the county or the city says there are health issues for people in these properties, then that becomes, I believe, that's an official organization giving that determination.
The Gainesville-Alachua County Association of Realtors includes a contract addendum warning about the Superfund site on all applicable transactions. But every area realtor and certainly every seller doesn't necessarily do the same. And some people really may not have the information to disclose.
But it really just goes down to, do they know about it? Do they know? Do they have the facts? Is there enough community education?
Alachua County commissioners plan to send a letter to local realtors, informing them of the facts about the Superfund site and the disclosure law. But for the Millers, it's too late. Corey Levitt, TV20 News.
More news to come when the TV20 News at 6 returns.